production of a play by Sasha Denisova that has just not really premiered, but was shown in Philadelphia at the Wilma Theater, which has become an important theater for Hunter College, because less than 2 years ago, as some of you remember, we were screening Dmitry Krymov's The Cherry Orchard here in this room with Dmitry. That was also staged at the Wilma. So today, of course, is a special event, not only clearly because it's the first event of ours in our series this semester, but because it's 2 days before the 2 years of full-scale invasion on February 24th, 2022. And it so happens that this play clearly is about that, but the 2 years time that has passed inevitably has introduced a lot of artistic elements to what you're about to see. So this is a play by Sasha Denisova, produced, staged by Yury Urnov, who is today with us. Let's welcome Yury, please. He's sitting at the back row. So Sasha is in Poland, cannot be here, but we have a short video message pre-recorded by her with English subtitles that we will play before the screening of the play itself. She's a playwright, director, and writer. She was born in Ukraine and studied philology at the Kyiv Taras Shevchenko University. Then she worked for a while in Moscow theaters, but of course had to flee Moscow immediately 2 years ago, whereupon her productions, which were a big success, were taken off the repertoires. Among her productions of the past 2 years, which are 4, if I'm not mistaken, is not only this, but also another play called The Hag, or Gaga, which is the onomatopoeic title, that also played in DC, and did it also play the Wilma?
It was in Boston.
Boston,
yeah.
Okay. So, also quite something to look out for, and possibly in our theater class that I'm teaching, and all of you, some of you are taking, we might be actually reading and even watching it, perhaps. So you will hear about Sasha from the video message. Let me just very briefly introduce Yury, who graduated from Russian Academy of Theatre Art, the famous GITIS, in 2000.
Yes.
With an MFA in theater, and since then has directed over 40 productions in Russia before he came here in 2009, where his career, I can start the list if you'd like me to. Yeah, he is artistic co-director at the Wilma Theater. He also teaches theater in Baltimore, and we just spent 2 unforgettable hours talking about productions, about how American theater is different from what Dmitry and Yury are so used to. So, after the screening, Yury, did you want to say anything?
I'll say just a couple words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you first of
So
all.
let's welcome Yury once again.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us here. This was quite a project for us. It was actually a co-production between the Woolly Mammoth Theater in Washington, D.C. and Wilma Theater in Philadelphia. So it's first American. We did the translation for that too, and it's our first light on stage in September this year, and then later on, we just closed last weekend in Philadelphia. So we did about 50 productions altogether. Probably about 10,000 people saw it. We also did the live streaming of that. Now we're doing this. This was about a year of my life. This project certainly took. The reasons for doing it, I think, are pretty obvious. I was born in Russia. Russia is. I was trying to run away from it, but Russia never lets you run away completely. About 2 years ago, it became pretty much impossible. So we're looking for the piece that would speak about the war, but also speak about the war in the way that is possible to perceive for the American audiences. And then Sasha, whose style we're now half-jokingly calling the theater of immediate response, because she wrote about 4 plays about the war in the first 2 years of the war, which is very, very rare in the theater. She made a play out of her own life. It's very much the development of what documentary theater tradition is. The play, pretty much every monologue you will hear in this play is a WhatsApp message from her mom. But then there is another layer, which I don't want to spoil before we go into that, but there is a fantastical layer, so that's what Sasha is so good at. She takes a very raw documentary, real-life material, and she builds a thing on top of that. So it's a mixture of tragedy and comedy, so we often refer to that as a stand-up in the trenches, because Mama's life is full of paradoxes as much as her messages are. Her messages will talk about the rocket strike on Kyiv, and in the next line, it's about the stuffed peppers she's going to make. And these 2 layers are unseparable from each other. So this production is based on this language paradox that is built into this play. Yeah, and I'm sorry Sasha is not here, but she was with us in DC and in Philadelphia. That's what we recorded for her message that people see before the show and people see before they stream this production. It's about 87 minutes long, so survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yury, once again. And of course, Sasha, who is here in spirit, even though physically in Poland.
Yeah.
So, let me maybe just first ask the first question. We don't have that much time, and then we will open up to yours. And as our tradition goes, as always, who have been coming to these events, the first and last questions will be going to the students. So, but I guess I'm an exception here. Yury, you said you defined this. The 4 plays that Sasha wrote rather in only for 2 years' time as, could you remind me?
Theater of immediate response, we're calling it.
Theater of immediate response, right? So as the stage director, what can you say? What is special about this type of theater being produced, especially across the ocean, from where the response is in a sense too? And how do you plug this immediate response onto the stage, into the production itself? How do you communicate it to the audience?
I think where Sasha's approach is growing to, besides for war, right? That's an immediate event. You can't not write. You respond with what you have. You respond with your mother. I think that's very humane and very real, but it's also she's growing out of the tradition of the royal court theater started was pushing the idea of documentary theater. What is documentary theater? Later on, the Dog Theater in Moscow was the center for the theater that was trying to speak about now, and that was actually a relatively new idea in the post-Soviet world. For a number of reasons, the late Soviet theater specifically was very much interpretation centered and centered on the classical text and reinterpretation of the classical texts. So even the idea of just writing about now, even in the late 90s, still felt somewhat fresh, and specifically for the bigger, what we call the academic stages of that. So she belongs to this. She's the part of the movement of speaking without quotation marks, right? Which is very unusual for the type and kind of theater I'm coming from. She sometimes succeeds in that. She sometimes succeeds at this less. But I think that's part of the reason. And looking at the play and looking at the theater as a ground for talking about something that is absolutely immediate. I think that it does make it easier. Clearly, right? I mean, there are things that keep developing for example, because we did it in DC, because before she actually went and saw her mother in Kyiv, the last scene was different. The last scene is another piece of documentary that belongs to her going there, between the Washington and the Philly part, right? The whole scene with Biden was actually written while she was in DC, so it's,
It sounds like it was written today with the phrase about.
Today said that Putin is a crazy son of a bitch, right? Biden did, but she had it in the play a bit earlier, but that was pretty obvious early on to many of us. I don't know. The joke about Amtrak is a Philly joke, that ends up there, whatever. Very, very specifically Philly joke, right? But people get. Anyway, and it's composing, right? And it's composing the piece, and it's a challenge for the actors because here's a playwright, and here's Sully Olin who's playing the playwright, right, with all her pains and troubles. There was a very fun kind of exchange between Mama, the actual real Mama, and Sasha as we're going, because Sasha first didn't tell her she wrote the play. She told her she wrote the play when she was in DC already. So she's like, Mama, I wrote this play. And she was like silent for 6 hours. Then she's like, I'm cooking this and that today, la la la. And then she went and actually answered. And then she started participating. She was like, she approved the actor. She was like, she's sympathetic. She's nice. Let's have her. This is the wrong dress. You can't talk about the war in the dress like that. Mama, you're 40 years old at this point. So she was so that was this very, strange exchange between the reality and the constructed reality in the piece from the first day of that. So it's challenging, but it's exciting too. It's like, these are her words. Most of these lines are her words. That's what she's saying. It's a document of this war of sorts, right? But even when it's not a document, like speaking about the more like parabolic scenes in this play, it's still a document because clearly she's not meeting with God, but we know that like that the real text is that she never prayed and then she prayed. One of these nights under the load-bearing wall. So Sasha is taking this, very real scene of her actual prayer and transforming it into this more dramatic form of meeting with the God. I think that's true about every scene. She's talking to the television. She's talking to like Schultz and Macron, all of them. They sort of answer, right?
Thank you. So please, yes.
You wrote an article last year titled Hope for Mama and the Rest of Us, and in it you said that theater at best can turn the echo of war into a more personal experience. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask, how does it do so for both the artist and the audience? What did you mean?
Well, I mean, it's right. It's in the context that what can we do, right? We can we're theater. What can we do? And we are not even at war, right? So we're dealing with the echo of the war. But I do think there is something about this character and about how Sasha constructs the play through the personal relationships primarily, like it's my mama and the full-scale invasions. It's the two parts of this formula. And we all have mamas, right? We all have relationships. So she finds this kind of, I think, window, a door into something that can become personal for any of us, and then through this door, she also brings in the war into your personal room, sort of, right? Yep, I think that's I think what I meant when I was writing it then and there. But it is more about Mama than about the war at the end of the day, right? It's a very special character.
So just to add on to your point about there's like the reality and then the kind of imaginative reality, and I guess continuing this layered cake metaphor, do you think there's another layer of this kind of like almost like a memoir piece, because she is reflecting a lot on her childhood and her relationship with her mom growing up? And do you think if you do think there is this memoir aspect, is it kind of arising in the face of like the possibility of her mother being killed in the war and grieving? Because I mean, I know I've experienced like when someone is, that their lives are at risk, you start reflecting and everything. So I was just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, it is written, the play, Sasha is very open about it, is written from guilt, from her own guilt that she can't go and bring her mom back, right? She can't, I mean, she goes, but then mama doesn't go, right? So I do think that this feeling of permanent fear for mother, right, and fear of guilt together, they initiate this, how was she when I was of her age, like remembering moments with her, remembering scenes with her, right? I think that's where the memoir is coming from. But I also think that there is a dramaturgical need in the scenes. I don't think this is just a reminiscence, as it is. I think it's what forms this woman, right? Like it's what this woman is made of. What is, right? She's actually not like a super traditional, right, idea of what we probably would project on the Soviet woman born in 1941, right? So like 3 husbands, like whatever, right? Like very like professional, like all these things, and what in the end makes her this force that is able to push back to push back during this war and to feel like she's doing something important just by the fact that she's staying in Kyiv and not bleeding. I thought that's my cheer.
Me or Susan?
Up to you.
What I found fascinating was how much history there is that holds things together, and it's starting from, it starts with references to earlier times, but from World War II on, it's kind of all the major events as seen through the perspective of Kyiv. What's interesting to me is the way in which you connect that to material culture and reality. It's presented as food. It's presented, those of us that experienced the old Soviet Union remember these things so vividly. It's just an incredible way of presenting history through these objects, through the things that are in the house, the places they visit, through what class status was at a certain point in time. I just enjoyed that, but what decisions had to be made to try to make those connections all the way through. It's really amazing.
Thank you. I think material culture can do a lot. You can really, I mean, just like even this school dress. I mean, go make it in Washington D.C. But still. Yeah, it tells a lot of stories. First, we had like there is some videos on the back wall of the theater that are hard to see on the video, but we had to put the actual picture of actual Sasha in this dress because like people were like, why are you sexualizing this young girl? They were they read the Soviet uniform, school uniform, almost as a like whatever Lolita kind of thing. Which made me think about my childhood in a different light. Yeah, this is good.
I'm curious, how did you make the decision, or why did you make the decision about the tone of voice of this mother? Because, I come from a background where my family also were sitting in bomb shelters, and the conversations were not. I don't know. They were. I had some difficulty accepting that tone of voice.
What do you mean?
And it was consistent.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I found it a fascinating experience, but I just wonder, why did you decide on that tone of voice? Because the other thing that came to my mind is that one of the things in those situations is to speak very quietly.
Huh. Well, that's how Scully, the actress, speaks, and that's how Mama is not quiet. Mama is like, I talked to her a few times on the phone. She has this kind of very insistent, very permanent pushing tone. Mama herself, the real Mama, right? I don't think we were like exactly copying, the timbre of the voice, but she has a bit of this, timbre of the like Russian Soviet school teacher, like somebody who has whose voice is used to keep pushing whatever she's saying the agenda through. I mean, she might be softer. It's also yeah, part of that is Holly's voice. It's Holly Twyford. She's kind of a big star in DC. That's her. She has this kind of that's her nature. And we were looking for Mama for quite a bit in DC because she's younger than Mama. The actress is younger than Mama, clearly, right? Because you don't find them in Washington DC, like the stuff different. But every other actor in the age we were looking at, they were like kind of too sweet. They were like too nice, you know, grandmothers, right?
Okay, I see.
And Holly, you know, she's like a lesbian legend of Washington, right? She's like the activist, the lesbian, like all of that, right? In one. So she's pretty proud of what because she was working for like months to like kind of just trying to get closer to this East European mixture of bitterness and humor, right? And that's a journey. That was a journey for her. But yeah, and the voice, yeah, that's her voice. That's how she speaks. Yeah, that's her voice.
Thank you.
Did you ever have the idea of doing accents with actors?
Oh, which one then, right?
Yeah.
Like what do we do? Do we do like just general East European sort of form? I mean, it's implied that she's not speaking in the foreign language, so no, we haven't. Yeah.
Hey, thank you very much. I mean, well, my parents are in Russia, and the piece is truly speaking like how to build this relationship. I mean, we are very close in our views, but what I hear from many of my friends that actually they're different sides. And a lot of parents who are in Russia, they're kind of under TV propaganda. And then the relationship are just distant because they're physically distant, and they're distant because they look at these things differently. So I think my question is about like parents, children, generational dynamics in this situation, and your interpretation, what actually happens between Sasha, the character, and Mom, the character, because I think like the God scene is something that I'm not sure that the Mama, the character, says, but something that Sasha really wants to be voiced. Like Mama loves her. So what's the dynamic and how we can put the story in the broader scale?
If I'm hearing your question right. I mean, I think that's actually one of the things that was harder to explain when working with American actors was that, well, people kind of don't really say "I love you" every day, right? That's like a big deal, right? That's like we say it once, and when we at the
until it changes.
At the funeral, when the body goes down, right? That's when we say. And it's actually interesting to discuss why, but it's a side thing. So yeah, it's a hard moment for the actress in this piece, like because it's like it's normal, right? You just say I love you in this culture. So that's part of it. I very much agree that it's where the emotional climax for Sasha for the playwright of the piece is because people don't say that, and it's a big thing to hear it from her mom. And to hear actually anything like, you know, openly positive, right? She just started telling Sasha things like, you know, no, you're doing the right thing, you're doing cultural diplomacy, you know, maybe it's her way to not, you know, let her come back. But still, it's a relatively complicated cultural language conundrum. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I mean, in her situation, it's certain, right? They're certainly completely aligned politically, right? Mama is in Kyiv, she's sitting under Putin's bombs. So there is comfort, at least in that they are not divided in their views. Like Russia is its own story, but that, you know, center is in Ukraine clearly here.
Do you have any plans of producing the play again in different states, or was it a one-time thing?
It was this year-long thing between DC and Philly. So I know we have some people watching it, producers, other places, but it's done for now.
Okay. Speaking about material culture, why you decided to dress the main character, Mama, like that? Because for me, it seems like a very peasantry-like short jacket, like
Sheepskin coat vest. That's.
Oh, really?
That's the document. Yeah, that's exactly. That's kind of almost exactly how it looks.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's easy for me to answer this question because they're just like they are what they are. They are exactly as much as theater can do exactly, but super close to what Mama is actually wearing. She had like initially, I think in the text it's 2 layers, but of that kind of vests. But it was just like so hot that we had to go down, one physically. Yeah, and the dresses and the hats, that's that's what it is. It's a great moment for the director when you don't have to choose that, when you're assigned that by the factuality of life itself.
Yes, please.
Hi. I was just wondering if there are any other like concepts or ideas that were kind of difficult to translate to an American audience like this.
Even from the script, from the original.
In the translation process.
Yeah, translation was we did this with 5 people actually. I actually think that's a very good way of translating. When you have a group of people, you have a playwright, you have a dramaturg, right? You have people carrying both languages with native language here and there. So then you do it with actors. So it's a very extended process of translating things, and certainly still some things are being lost. Certainly, Mama's language itself is this layered cake of sub-languages. Like she sometimes switches to this very formal Soviet thing, fulfill your goal, like just achieve self-fulfillment, and then she jumps into something much more like humane and simple. So that's parts of that. Some of these layers are not translatable. That's lost. The translating, like I do think that the main thing is this permanent. Like everything is simultaneously tragic and ironic. There is no like divider between them two. There is always the feeling of the quotation marks. Like there is in the behavior, not even in the language, that there is always the level of ironical self-distancing from the pain that is very real, right? So I think for me it's magic chemistry that both are permanently present. It's not, you read the messages. It's not like funny tragic. It's at the same time. It's in one package. There is no way to divide them, and we kept talking how much the humor is the way of resistance in itself when you are in the circumstances that are unbearable, right? You push away with, and one of the tools is her humor. Her humor is stunning. It's absolutely like it's a weapon, and that's hard, and that's a layered cake for the American actor. I mean, I think they're doing great, but I mean that's the hard part. That's the hard part.
Could you speak a little bit more about, since the Vilma production is not the first, it was first produced in DC, as you said, and it was in September, right? Now it's February. So how does this change for you, I guess, sitting here or at the theaters themselves and watching them across, let's say, at least half a year? So how does the audience react differently back in September and in a whole different city in DC versus in Philadelphia just a few days ago, and maybe even what is it like to watch it here on the screen?
Well, on the screen it's a bit easier because you know nothing will go wrong already. Everything that could go wrong already went and we or didn't. So that's easier a bit. But I'm trying to be serious about. I mean, actually, that's actually because it's the same company, right? It's the same actors, it's the same set. The space is somewhat different, but somebody should write a dissertation about that, just like about how the context, right? Theater is the matryoshka of context, right? So how it resonates in the place and in the time, and DC audiences were very loud. They were laughing a lot. They were very loud. It felt like a very political piece, but it also felt like a more optimistic piece. Mm-hmm. It felt like a piece that it felt like Mama will win. Actually, that's how it felt. It felt like Mama equals Ukraine, right? She is kind of. I think that's the central sort of image of this piece, right? This stubborn, insistive, wonderful, strong woman will win the war as Ukraine will. And that was still just like in the context felt more possible in October than it did by February. There was a level of pessimism that I think covered many of us in the last few months of this is not this. Where is this victory? Where is this potential? And that felt different 4 or 5 months ago. I hope it feels back that again. But so the DC production felt more political and more optimistic, and Philly felt much more painful and tearful and.
Did you also feel it while working with the actors, while rehearsing?
Yeah.
So it's not just the audience's perception, but also perhaps.
I think they did. Yeah, I think it's internal. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think so. And Sasha felt different. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And where else has it played? Perhaps in different languages in different countries.
There is a one-person version of this that Sasha made in Europe. I think they did it in Barcelona and in Berlin. Now they are doing it with one actor. It's not like a full-scale production, but it's exciting. It's with the former Ukrainian actor who now lives in Europe. But this play, the Hague was in many places. The Hague opened in Bulgarian National Theatre in Poland. It opened in Boston in Spain. It was like 4 or 5 countries. Hague is Sasha's again fantasy. It's the satirical fantasy of how Putin and all his gang spends their time in the prison waiting for the court session when the young girl actually, not even young woman, is accusing them each one by one in what they did during this invasion. She has a strong satirical talent. That's part of that. She has that.
Especially when it comes to presidents walking onto the stage.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Anything else? Yes, Dan.
I did want to ask about the scene with Biden and Putin, whatever. That's like the hardest I've laughed with at a theater piece in a few years. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know what the choices were with that, because I imagine on paper it's very different. I don't think Putin's exactly spitting the stuffed pepper on the script. And they both just kind of appear as these two things as opposed to people, with especially Biden kind of walking like a doll. I just wanted to know
that's purely documentary. Sorry.
I just want to know your choices with that.
We knew that we wanted this scene, but she said I need to come and then to DC and then we'll write it. So she was actually writing it. So there were sessions. She would sit with us with actors. It was as close as to the devised theater, to the devised part of the piece as any other scene, because, these people know the local nature better, so they helped her a lot. Putin, when you somehow we knew that we wanted a mask. Like Zelenskyy only as projections, deep fake for Macron and Scholz, and yes, and the mask for Putin, just because there was they didn't feel like we wanted to humanize him further than that or something. I don't know.
But this has a story behind this TV show from back in the 90s, Kukly.
Puppets. Yeah, there was this famous. There is one thing that is for the piece of video design that is not seen well, but like there is like a Putin mosquito flying over the stage. So then when he's drinking kind of the red wine or whatever, the cherry thing, it's sort of there is this mosquito thing.
Did you ever see a case where you had to pull back on the humor to like? Was there ever a case where you thought, oh, this is not like fitting with the tone, or was it always like, oh yeah, the Russian humor is gonna? Like...
All the time, it's so scary to laugh when this I think that's what I mean. We talked about the first day. I'm like, you realize, right? People can kill us, right? Just pretty much for just like laughing during this. She's like, this is what I'm doing. This is her artistic provocation. Like I will keep it as is. It will, yeah. But it's very scary.
Where did you feel you departed the farthest from the play, from the script, if it's not a secret?
I don't know the exact answer for that. I know that the hardest scene was the scene with about the Second World War. When they are it's before husbands. It's after she says her big speech, recording the address to the nation, and then the play sort of goes so far back into like 1941, and it's suddenly. I mean, she's doing it like she knows very well what she's doing. She's building the clear parallel between fascist history and the new Russia's history, but it's just like. It's the hard scene because it's very much the exposition that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. That's far away from playing. I don't know. She was in the room all the time. Like I was first pushing like the Sasha the narrator much more in her in the play. Initially, I was pushing her to be like much more physical and much more like we started the first scene with her like drinking the bottle of wine in the middle of the night and then and Sasha was can we make her a bit more formal of a storyteller? Sure. Yes, I think her own role was the one where I was seeing the narrator differently than she was seeing the narration.
Well, we have time for maybe one or two more, if any, if you have any. If not, then thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.